Interviewing sucks enough as it is, but what if I told you that some of the questions they ask are actually traps? Well, maybe not literally, but they can be one if you're not careful. But don't worry, I'm here to help you identify these traps so that you can avoid them. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to A Life After Layoff. My name is Brian Creeley, and I'm a corporate recruiter, and I've made it my mission to demystify how employers hire so that you can approach your job search with supreme confidence and authority. So if that kind of thing interests you, hit the subscribe button. You might also hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content. I also have a website called alifeafterlayoff.com, which is loaded with tips and tricks, all from a recruiting perspective. So check it out if you're in an active job search. Today, we're going to be talking about a big hurdle in your job search: interview traps. These are those sneaky questions that seem simple at the surface, but they can tank your chances if you're not ready.
It's a trap!
And I should know, I've interviewed tens of thousands of people in my career. I've sat down with thousands of hiring managers, so I know exactly what goes on behind the scenes. I've also been on the other side of the table interviewing myself, and I have seen candidates crash and burn on these. But you don't have to. So in this video, we're going to break down the 7 most common trap interview questions and how to dodge them. So let's get you that job offer, grab a notebook, and let's dive in. First up, we have, why did you leave your last job? Now, this one sounds innocent, but it actually can be a trap. What they're doing is testing your professionalism. If you got fired or had drama in your last job, a negative answer could make you look bad. Or if you have a history of quitting your jobs with little notice, or you tend to hop from job to job to job, they're liable to judge you for poor decision making. But whatever you do, you don't want to bash your old employer or your company or spill too much. Stay positive and remember, less is more here. Focus on what you gained. So for example, you might say, I wanted a role to grow my skills in a specific area, maybe leadership, and my last job didn't offer that. And if you were laid off, mention it briefly. Don't spend too much time harping on it, saying how unfair it was, how all these other people got wrapped up in it. Just pivot to why you're excited about this specific role that you're interviewing for. Keep it classy, and more importantly, focus on why you're a great fit for this role instead of why you're not, and you'll pass this test just fine. Next up is the very popular, what's your biggest weakness? Now, this is the classic trap, and it could be twofold issues here. First, they may not actually care about the weakness at all. They might just want to see if you're self-aware. In other words, they may be looking to see if you can even identify a weakness and whether or not you'll own up to it. Or they could be looking to see if that weakness that you provide aligns well or not so well with the rest of the organization, their group, or that specific job type. For example, let's suppose that you tell them that you're not a very detail-oriented person, but the job requires a high degree of precision. It's likely that they may look at you as a poor fit for that job. So obviously, be self-aware of the job that you're interviewing for and what likely competencies they're going to be assessing for the role. And don't give one of those as a weakness. In addition to that, whatever you do, don't say, I don't have any weaknesses, because that comes across as arrogant and insincere. We all have weaknesses. Yet don't fake it with an overly cliche answer like, I work too hard or I care too much, because employers will look at that as a cop-out. We know that you don't really work too hard or that you care too much. Instead, pick a real weakness that's not a deal breaker for the job type you're interviewing for.
But I don't do so well in tight spaces, so going to prison worries me.
And here's a little hint. Check the core values of the company that you're interviewing for before you interview so that you don't land in any hot water over something that doesn't align with them. For example, when I worked at Amazon, they were notorious about their leadership principles. And if you gave what you felt was an innocent answer in an interview question, like what's your greatest weakness, that went against the core values, the leadership principles, then you were likely not going to get hired there. And then when you share the relatively safe example, then show how you fixed it. For instance, if you're interviewing for a team lead position, you might say, I used to struggle with delegating tasks, but I realized as I moved into more leadership type of roles that I needed to trust my team. And I've learned to do that by understanding what my team's capabilities were and then making sure that I wasn't overloading them, but distributing the workload in a more equal manner. And it's actually really boosted our productivity. So now I'm a firm believer in it. Be honest, show growth. That's what they're looking for. Next up is another favorite. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now, this one's a trap because if your stated goal doesn't match the expectations of a hiring manager for where they see this role growing, then you're likely going to find yourself on the outside looking in. For example, if they're hiring this role as part of a succession management plan, and you come in saying that you would like to start a business very soon, they're likely going to think that you're not committed. In other words, you're not going to be able to meet what their expectation is for the role long term.
I just don't know if we want to think too much in the long term, only because I don't know if I see a future with you.
And if you come in and say, I'm here to take your job, they're likely going to take offense to that. What if the hiring manager likes their position and doesn't want you coming in and upsetting the apple cart, or thinking that you're a little too big for your britches? And alternatively, if you come in with no plan at all, you're going to look lost or unmotivated. Either way, it's not going to be a good look on you. Tie your goals to that of the company and the job that you're applying for. Make sure that they're in alignment. For example, you may say, ideally, I will have learned this job completely and be exceeding my expectations. And then in 5 years, hopefully we'll be on a leadership career path while I continue to help the company's goals, but at the same time, building my leadership competency. This shows ambition, and it shows that you're in it for the long haul. But I'm going to put a little asterisk here and say, don't just feed them a line of BS. If you're truly not interested in leadership and that's what they're expecting, you're probably going to be in a career mismatch, and it's likely not going to end well for you. So just be honest. Don't just take what I gave as an example in this video, but actually think through, where would you like to be in 5 years? And hopefully there's good alignment. This is one you don't want to wing. Next up, we have, tell me about a time when you failed. Now, this is an obvious setup. So they're going to look for not just how you handled failure, but they're going to want to see how you handled the setback. If you blamed others or pick a huge failure, like you costed the company $1 million, you're probably going to look unreliable, or worst, incompetent, which is likely to get you asking them additional negative probing questions. And that's the fastest way to flip it into a defensive interview. And trust me, the last thing we want here is to be put on the defensive. We don't want to dodge this one either. Pick a relatively small failure here. Hopefully you're seeing a little bit of a common theme, but something that doesn't have huge stakes.
I destroyed the universe.
Own it, show improvement, show growth. You'll come out stronger, and it's much more likely to impress the hiring team. Now, of course, I couldn't have a list of trap questions without including the next one, which is, what's your current salary, or what are your salary expectations? This could be a trap to lock you into a lower offer, but it doesn't automatically mean that. But sharing your salary can indeed lead to a lowball offer, or you might be leaving money on the table, and obviously neither of those are good scenarios. And a high expectation may actually scare them off. In fact, some states actually ban the question of what's your current salary, but we all know it still pops up. If that's the case, I would just deflect that one and try to focus on the role's value and put it back on the employer. But when I'm asked what my salary expectation is, I want to answer this strategically. First, I'm going to ask them if they'll share. So I'm going to put it back on them. And if they don't, and they come back to you and say something like, well, we asked you first, then I'm going to give them my minimum acceptable salary. And how I define this is, what's the minimum amount that I would need to see to feel really good about the job offer and not immediately keep on looking? And in that case, I'm then going to add 10 to 20% above that. And that's the range I'm going to provide. But I have to make sure that I'm doing good salary research here before I walk in the interview. And even more importantly, I have to be realistic about what I truly bring to the table, because I've learned from talking to lots and lots of people over the years that there are some of you who are not very self-aware about what your true skill and abilities are.
You know, like nunchuck skills, bow hunting skills, computer hacking skills.
But at the end of the day, this is something that you own. And if we want to reclaim control in our careers, we are never going to allow the company to determine what salary we're worth. We will control that. And if the company is going to lowball us, then we're going to walk out the door. And if you try to kick the can down the road by avoiding answering this question, what is likely going to happen is the employer is going to put you into the rejected status or potentially limbo until you do provide a number. In most cases, they're not going to put you in front of their hiring teams and their busy executives, only to find out that you're way far apart on salary expectations. And the same thing goes for you. You don't want to go through an entire interview process only to find out that the company's expectation is 20, 30, 40% less than what you were expecting, because it's a waste of your time too. Next up, we have a sneaky one. It's, what do you know about our job? And this usually happens at the beginning of an interview, and people think that this question is more of an icebreaker, but it's actually not. This is actually an interview question, and this is a trap to see if you've done your homework. So take this one seriously. They want to know that you have a genuine interest and you're not just interviewing to interview. And if you don't know anything about the role or the job or the company, you're going to look lazy or just going through the motions. You need to research the company. You need to know their mission. You need to understand the role. And most importantly, show a genuine interest. And this is particularly important with the hiring manager. For example, you might say, I know that the company focuses on such and such goal. They've just launched this new product, and this particular role supports such and such division with these key responsibilities. Read through the job posting. I think I've got a pretty good understanding, but I'm happy for you to elaborate on anything that I might be missing on. But I'm really excited about this position because of such and such reason. And here's where asking timely questions can help you establish a dominant frame in the interview. If you need more inspiration on what to ask, I've created another video called 10 Questions to Ask Your Interviewer, and you should check that one out if you need more ideas. And our final crowd pleaser, and this one is sure to get you riled up, is, why do you want to work here? We all want to say the truth. I need a freaking job, duh.
Because I need a job to get an apartment, that's why.
But we all know that honesty won't land you the job offer. They're looking at your reasons. They want to know that you're not here just for a paycheck. You got to swallow your pride here and don't make it about you. Make it about them. We have to keep in mind the dynamics here. Remember, they are the buyer. They are shopping for talent. They are the ones who write the paycheck. We are essentially the seller or the salesperson trying to make a sale, in this case on our candidacy. Most people get this backwards and it causes a lot of grief. So I'm going to try to tie in what they're trying to solve for that job into my answer and show them that I'm the best possible fit for the job. So I might say something to the effect of, I admire your company's focus on such and such value, and I feel that based on the product or the service that you're offering or delivering, I would be a great fit because of X, Y, and Z. We want to show passion. We want to show alignment. We want to show our fit. They will eat that up if you can do it effectively. So there you have it. Those are the 7 most common interview questions that could be traps. And I say could be because it doesn't automatically mean that they are indeed a trap, but just keep your guard up. So again, we've got why you left your last job, what your biggest weakness is, where you see yourself, a time where you failed, salary expectations, what you know about the job, and why you want to work here. And listen, I get it. These questions are totally maddening. You just want to be real. You just want to work. But if you want the job, on some level, you got to play the game and use strategy. Prepare your answers, practice, and make sure that you can deliver them clearly and comfortably. And remember, show your value and be confident that you're in the room for a reason. They called you because you had something on your resume that was intriguing to them, so use that to your advantage. People that they weren't interested in are in the rejection pile and either getting ghosted or getting that generic rejection letter. But if you struggle with interviewing and marketing yourself in the interviewing process, that's actually something that I specialize in. Check out my Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp course. You can find it over at alifeafterlayoff.com. It's got everything you need to nail each round of your interviews, from job search all the way to job offer. We help you negotiate it so you don't leave any money on the table. And an alternative to that is the 48-hour interview crash course, which is also a great resource. Again, you can find those all on my website, alifeafterlayoff.com. So which of these questions do you think is the most tricky and trappy? Leave a comment and let me know. As always, appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next one.